how many weddings have we been to when the person that they hired to come sing doesn't know the lyrics?
Yeah.
Come on. Doesn't know the lyrics. Singing off key.
Can I get that on monitor, please?
Right. Doesn't know the song because who cares? It's just 50 people. It's just 75 people. I'm just a wedding singer. This isn't my purpose. This isn't my calling. This isn't where I'm really supposed to be. It's poor stewardship.
Yeah.
Wow.
But they're telling you about their cover band show that they have that night.
Yeah.
Right.
So come later because I'm doing this thing.
That I care about, right? It's bad stewardship.
Man.
Yeah.
Even the opportunities, like you say, every opportunity has to be stewarded well because it opens the door for the next thing.
Welcome to the Axel Podcast. Axel Creative Co. exists to equip and empower sons and daughters to advance the kingdom of heaven through their creative expressions. On this season of the podcast, we'll be discussing our values. So we've gathered leaders from our community to share what they're experiencing through applying these values in their everyday life. Let's jump in.
Welcome, guys. Welcome to the Axel Podcast. My name is Chris, and I'll let you guys go around and introduce yourself, and we can begin this episode of the podcast.
My name is Ben.
I'm Les.
I'm Nikki.
All right. Well, welcome. Well, today, guys, we're talking about our value of stewardship. I'm going to read what our definition of stewardship, and then I'd love to get some of your thoughts on this, and we're just going to dive in. All right. So we say stewardship is the third option. We manage heaven's resources for the Father's business. The heart's cry of a good steward is, "It will never be mine. It will always be yours." When given the choice between an ownership or an employment mentality, we choose the third option, stewardship. So we're at Axel, we are believing in equipping and empower kingdom creatives. Kingdom is a lot of times countercultural to what is the norm. And so when we're even talking about stewardship, the third option, it makes sense. Okay, ownership, employment mentality. When we're saying stewardship, can you guys just kind of just break that down? What does that even mean to someone that's a creative? What do I mean? What does it mean that I'm stewarding this rather than I own this? Because in a lot of times you'll see in with creatives where this is my gift, my vision, my talent, my project. How does the my fit in stewardship, I guess, in the kingdom is my question.
I think the first thing is to acknowledge the temptation to try to own it, especially when it comes to something as personal as a creative project. You write a song, you're doing a piece of artwork, whatever it might be. It's very personal. It's deeply personal. I think I'm writing a book right now. I'm in the midst of that. And I think about how personal that can be. And it's my story and my this and my that. And we can take it and own it. And in our culture today, like having that ownership mentality is a virtue, right? Yep. I have an ownership. I own it. It's virtuous. But a kingdom perspective as a kingdom creative, it's that we recognize that we don't own anything, that it all belongs to the Lord. And that's the first step for me in becoming a good steward, is to understand that it's not mine, it's His. Yeah.
That's so good.
I like to think of what can you be trusted with? Like, am I trusted with this? Because if it's not, it's something that I'm just holding in the meantime. So how long am I holding this for? And what am I using it to its fullest potential? Or am I squandering it?
Yeah, when you're saying what can I be trusted with, a lot of times when we think about stewardship and we're in the Bible, it's an equation to money. But can you even just expound on what other things are we actually entrusted with that there's an account for?
Yeah, I think even speaking to like if you're married or if you have children, and
we're married, by the way.
We are married.
20 years in November, baby.
So that's where all the chemistry and sparks flying that I saw. Okay, got
This is stewardship of 20 years.
Exactly. And 5 kids.
And 5 children.
That's right.
In stewarding your family, I feel when you recognize that they don't belong to you, you treat it better. So if you're watching somebody else's kids, you're much kinder, much softer in your delivery of telling them if they're doing something right or if they're doing something wrong. And you get comfortable with your own family. And sometimes it comes across as brash, It can even move into the realm of abuse if it's not healthy.
Right.
But with your own children, when you recognize, wait a second, this child doesn't belong to me, they belong to the Lord.
That's right.
You better treat them like they belong to him.
Yep.
And pride is one of the first, I feel like it's a manifestation of pride when you take everything on as your own.
Yeah. Why? Why do you, like, can you dive into that?
Yeah.
I feel like when you take it on as your own thing, it belongs to me, we end up misusing it, molding it in our way, molding it, or changing the verbiage to fit how you feel about something, which is soul. There's a difference between soul and spirit. When you're doing that, you're putting your feelings, your emotions, your will into something instead of what is spirit-led.
Yeah. And then we have entitlement.
Yep.
We're entitled instead of stewards.
Yeah.
So I'm entitled to this thing. I'm entitled to these accolades. I'm entitled to the success of this business venture, creative venture that I'm on, instead of recognizing that I'm merely a steward of this.
Yeah. It's actually a very humble heart posture to even think of, like, I don't deserve this, right? I earned all this, because in the world we're like, yeah, I put the work in, I did this is the fruit of my labor.
Yep.
And when we're talking about stewardship, even when we look at the parable of the talents, I mean, that's talked about in the Bible, but it says, like, he entrusted his talents to other people. And so when we're talking about stewardship in the kingdom aspect here, then we're really realizing this actually isn't even ours. So this family, like you said, doesn't belong to me. This gift doesn't necessarily belong to me. But what's interesting in that is there's an account that goes into it. So there's like, okay, what did you do with this? And I guess for our creatives, I want to process is like, how do we grow stronger in our stewardship? Is that a fair question to ask, of like, what does that look like to be like, okay, if I'm going to have to give an account of, okay, what did you do with this gift that I gave you? What did you do with these relationships that I gave you? What did you do with the family I gave you? Like, okay, if I know I have to give an account of that, like, how do we walk that out? And it's like, okay, how do I actually steward this well, so that when there is an account for it, I'm not the one that's the wicked or the lazy steward.
I think the first thing you have to start with is not being afraid to try, because a lot of times, like, we'll be like, this is mine, and there becomes this fear that I don't know if I can let other people see what I have. What if they don't like what I made? What if they don't like what I created? And so now you hold on to this thing, and like, you keep it close, and it's now guarded, because I don't want anyone to critique what I did. I don't want anyone to tell me that, like, they didn't like what I did. And so are you even willing to risk letting people see what you can do?
The word risk, that's huge. You're going to be a good steward, you have to be comfortable with a certain level of risk. We can't be fearful if we're going to be stewards. Risk averse, fearful people. We have to be willing to trust the Lord, to trust other people that we empower, to release that thing instead of holding on to it.
There's, and you guys have heard this many times, there's the project that is like ongoing, that hasn't been released yet, that is still working on, that's still being stewarded, that's still and in this lens of stewardship, talk about maybe even sometime where you guys feel like you've been stewarding something, or how's the fear of the Lord been on that for you to, like, okay, I need to see this through, like, I can't let this just stay ongoing.
Well, Chris, the concept of the fear of the Lord, when we can really grasp that all that we have is the Lord's. I know we say that, and we keep saying it's not mine, it belongs to the Lord, and the third option, and that's wonderful verbiage, but a true revelation that everything that we have belongs to the Lord. My home is the Lord's. My car is the Lord's. My health, my mind, my talents, my gifts, my abilities, my marriage, my children, everything I have belongs to the Lord. And I will give an account for what I did with each and everything that I have, because it's all His. And if I can grasp the fear of the Lord and the concept of fearing the Lord and understanding that I'm in such awe and reverence to Him, and I so want to please his heart, then I'm not going to have an entitlement mentality. I'm not going to have entitlement.
The Lord gave me revelation on this when we were, when my parents passed. My mom's vehicle went to us, which was such a gift at the time because we just found out that we were pregnant with our 4th child and we couldn't fit anybody else in the vehicle that we had. And so we got this vehicle. Well, as we're stewarding this, it gets to time where we're like, you know what, we really need a new vehicle. What are we going to do? And so I heard the Lord one morning in one of my encounter times tell me, steward your vehicle. I'm like, okay, Lord, what does that mean? And he's like, take care of it as if it's not your own. Are you going to give this away? And I'm like, oh, I am going to give this away. I want to make sure that I give it away better than I received it. So I went out and I changed the tires on it, got new batteries, cleaned it up. And he didn't tell me to give it away yet, but I was like, I need to be prepared to release this whenever you're ready to release it. And so we stewarded that van as if it belonged to somebody else. And when he did say, go ahead and give it away, it was so easy to gift it to somebody because it wasn't mine in the first place. It was mine for a season because he gifted it to me. Wow. And so I loved that revelation of the Lord.
Yeah. Is there,
gifted.
Can you talk about, the Word of God talks kind of about like the rewards. There's a reward to good stewardship, but there's also consequences to not stewarding. And is there something that you guys can share, even either personally or something you saw about when something wasn't stewarded well? What was the result of that?
Ben, I know you got something.
It's like, how much do I want to share?
I don't know if we can go in on all of that stuff. But I love how you said, like, you took care of the vehicle to where, like, you could give it away. Yeah. Because how many times do we, like, give away, like, our less than best? Yeah. Like, for me, stewardship, like, if you're going to give something away as a gift, like, don't give you didn't give them the car that needed new tires, that needed new batteries, that needed to be cleaned, that needed a new engine. You gave them a vehicle that they could, like, immediately step into. And, like, how do we do that even, like, as creatives, like, when you get to use someone else's space?
Yeah. You have to recognize it as a gift.
Do you realize, like, if someone lets you use their space for whatever you're using it for, is it a photo shoot, is it a film shoot, is it a podcast, whatever you're doing, are you taking care of that space? Like, and if you don't, and you just like, oh, well, it didn't cost me anything, it might not cost you anything right now, but what is it going to cost you in the future? I think too many times we're thinking about right now, but everyone is watching what you're doing. That's right. Everyone is paying attention to how you are stewarding what is at your hands. That's right. And so if you really take care of something, you can be trusted with more down the road.
That's right. True. When you hold back even what you've been given, I said this in another one, you're essentially erasing a facet of the Lord. Wow. If he said that he made us in his image and we all look different, not one of us at this table looks the same. We're different sex, we're different age, we're different colors. None of us look the same here. But if he made us in his image, that means that you're his image, you're his image, you're his image, I'm his image. And if we're stewarding it like, oh, well, I need to have more of a gift kind of like theirs. Or I need to hold this, like you said a minute ago, I need to hold this back because I'm afraid of how they're going to receive it. Well, you're erasing a facet of what the Lord wants to give to the earth. It's a gift. It's not yours. Give it away.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, we devalue the uniqueness of the Lord when we hold it back. That story you told, or that you reminded us of, the parable of the talents. If you don't know, there's this parable in the Bible Jesus is talking about where there was a business leader, and he gave different talents to different people, and one of them buried his talents in the ground, the other one invested and doubled his money, and the third one invested and made 10 times the amount of money. And so for the one that made 10 times, he got 10 times the property and resources to manage. The one that had double got double, and the one that buried it, the Bible says he was thrown into outer darkness. And he was called, you wicked and lazy servant. Why? Because he devalued that thing that the master had given to him. So what do we have that the Lord has given to us that we are devaluing? Is it is it that book that's in your belly to write that you keep pushing off? Is it the car, like you said, that the Lord has given you, the opportunities the Lord's given you? And we're so focused on what's to come and what we think we deserve, and what we say, man, I'm entitled to this other thing. I really should be this, that, and the other. And so I'm devaluing the job that I have, the position that I'm in, the projects that I have to work on right now. I'm devaluing those things. That's being a poor steward. That's being a poor steward. Yeah.
And with creatives, there's a grind sometimes of like, wait, I don't really have a lot to steward. Like, I don't have enough. I need someone to invest in me or someone to to put me on. And so what would you say to creatives that feel like I don't really have that much to steward to begin with, so how does this even apply to me?
What are you doing with what you have?
Yep. Excellence.
Excellence. Like to me, the value of excellence and stewardship like go hand in hand. And so like one of the things I've been trying to like help my kids with is like everything that you're given, I want you to hold like this. Put your hands together and hold it like this. If you're carrying it like this, if it like say it's like an antique vase, it's worth silly amounts of money, and you're carrying it like this, you have to be very intentional with what you do. How you run, you can't.
It's good.
You can't make a fast turn. You got to be very intentional with what you're doing. So you can pay attention to what it is, but like when you're holding it like this, it's also not yours.
That's
right.
You can't hang on to it. You're just holding it. So when we start holding things, and like we realize like this is a possession for me to hold in the meantime. So like if God gives me the ability to do this, whether it's a job or a position or a one-off opportunity, if I hold it like this and realize that this was just an opportunity I have, he can take it and I'm no longer offended that it's no longer in my possession. And he might need to take that thing from you in order to give you something better. But as long as you feel like this is mine, I'm entitled to this, I'm self-made, look what I did. He's like, well, all you're doing is this. I'm trying to give you something more. I have a better vehicle for you. I have a bigger vehicle for you. I have a better audience for you. I have all these other things I want to do, but you're stuck in this place.
Oh man,
because you want to own this spot, and you're like, this is me, look what I did. And it's like, okay,
there you go.
You want more in whatever area it is.
Give it away.
Operate in excellence with what you have. Like operate in excellence. There's a phrase that I hear often. It's my least favorite phrase, Nikki, you'll know what I'm saying. When people say that's good enough.
Oh my God.
It runs up my spine.
Mediocrity, right?
That's good enough. That's good enough.
No.
Why would you do something
80%
of the way when you could do it 100% of the way? I mean, it doesn't mean perfection. It means you're doing the best with what you have. And so I don't have much to steward. Perhaps you don't have much to steward because you're not doing the best with what you do have to steward.
Wow.
And so if you got a nasty, dirty room and a nasty, dirty car, and you say, man, I sure wish I had a greater influence on social media, and you're not asking the Lord what you should post, and you're not operating in excellence, you're not whatever it may be. I don't want to take this type of photos. I'm tired of taking pictures for weddings. I want to be doing fashion shoots, and so you missteward the wedding photography business that you have.
Yeah, people don't want to talk about the stewardship behind the scenes. People see people in the limelight and they think, oh, I want to be just like them. They didn't see what they stewarded in the wilderness.
Come on, talk about it.
And Pastor Heather said
talk about that
at Staff Vision Week that we had. The wilderness wasn't cursed until the children of Israel began to complain about the provision that the Lord was providing for them. And we look at celebrities, we look at even just in the church, the preachers that we think are incredible communicators, but we didn't see what they gave up. We didn't see where they followed around somebody who they really looked up to gain wisdom, to gain insight, to learn how to get there. They didn't just arrive there. Or the times that they were in the back cleaning toilets. There's so much that you learn to steward behind closed doors, and then the Lord trusts you with much.
There's even this lens of like investing in what he's given you, right? Like you can't just expect someone else to put it in the work for you, put the resources in for you. You actually have to put in the investment of that talent he's giving you, that resource he's giving you, that opportunity he's giving you. I've even had times too where I just get, like you said, just get this little piece here, do that little piece well, and then the Lord gives more. But then I've also run into the I guess it's a good problem to have where, okay, you steward the little, and then the next test is you get more. And then it's like, oh, wait. Now it's like, how do I not get in over my head when I was stewarding this little portion here, but now I'm like, I need to steward this big portion. And you guys have gone and grown so much in what the Lord's been giving you guys to steward. And so the reward of stewarding a little is getting to steward much.
That's right.
And so there's also people now like, okay, I was stewarding this little bit of amount of influence, but now I have this now. How do I operate at this level that the Lord's given me now?
Realize your season.
Yeah.
Like realizing that if you grew to a new space, there's probably things you still need to learn. There's a new way of doing it, and are you willing to learn and go, there's still more I have to learn? I think about like some of like the most successful people in the world never feel like they've made it. They're constantly trying to learn. They're always trying to find something new to do. They're always trying to find new information to grow in, so that they're not just limited to I've made it.
Yeah, and your circle. Who are you allowing into the intimate spaces of your lives? And we have a tendency to not be able, as Ben said, recognize the changing seasons. Jesus said it in the Bible. He said, you Pharisees, you know how to read the signs of the sky, to know the seasons in the natural, but you can't read what's happening in the spiritual.
Wow.
You can't discern the spiritual season. We have to be able to discern what spiritual season we're in as people. And we some of us are living in a different spiritual season, but we have the circle from yesterday's season. We have relationships from yesterday's season that are trying to pull us back into
stagnant.
Into where they're at, and that can really affect our ability to steward the more that God has given us.
Wow. You went into something. I want to shift gears a little bit. We talk about resources, talents, but can we talk about stewarding people? That's also the Father's business. That's also kingdom as well too. And when I think about the capital C big church, there's been tension between creatives and the big capital big C church. What would you say is something that as a whole, as the body of Christ, we can do to steward creatives better? We've talked and seen so many amazing creatives start in the church, and then they have to take their creative giftings outside of the church into other spaces. I mean, the Whitneys, the Mariahs, like go on and on. So what would you say, like as kingdom creatives that are a part of the Big C church, what does it look like to actually steward people, the creatives in the church, better?
Well, I'll speak to this from my perspective as a pastor. So what I've seen, I've been in ministry now, I don't know,
you want to give it away here?
21 years, I think. And so I've been on all the different levels and places. But as a pastor now, I can look back and see what I think that a lot of church leaders haven't valued creative people and understood the creative process. So pastors out there and church leaders out there understand that there's a creative process, and you have to give people the space to be able to create and to value creativity. And that means that you have to value, that means monetarily value their creativity. Sometimes creative.
What about the exposure?
Right. Well, you work for exposure.
I can pay you an exposure.
Right. We got to be able to value. There's two sides of that coin, right? Some creatives don't serve the house of the Lord unless they get paid. That's a problem too. But to be able to value creativity and the process that creatives have, and I think that can be confusing to non-creative individuals. That sometimes laughing and joking and sitting around a table, that's part of the creative process. Don't shut them down. I worked at a church years ago that he actually wanted on the wall a phrase that said, "Shut up and do your job," something like that.
Wow.
And so anytime there was any like laughing and joking and discussion, it was shut down and focus and do your job. Well, that's part of the creative process sometimes. And so, and I think that's part of devaluing what creatives do. If that made any sense, I hope it did.
I think when you said that, like, some creatives will only do something if they get paid.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that gets down to is like there's been a lack of relationship.
Yes.
Like I am willing to partner with you if like we have relationship. If I feel like all you're doing is just trying to like take from me and what can you get out of me to like never acknowledge me again till you need me again because you're not sure how to make this happen. I think that's where like the disconnect comes in with a lot of people. They're like, I'm not here just to be used. I'm willing to give,
right?
But like, there's more to me than just
that's
this.
Right. To what I can produce.
Yeah. There's a lens though too. I think that we can attach identity to what we do, and so if it's mismanaged or misused, then there's this like, oh, they're actually coming, they're attacking me, or they're trying to mismanage me. But there's an ownership side of it as well. As creatives, what would you say? How can they actually apply stewardship to their creativity instead of, okay, these people have to steward me better? What's the other side of them taking responsibility as well?
All right, I have a couple.
What do you have to? What do you have to give?
Yeah.
Like what can I give? Like, and you say serving in the church, like as a creative, like, well, where can I give my talents?
Yeah.
Where can I give my ability, and how can I do it in a way where like I'm not trying to take over and be pushy at the same time? And can I serve people that maybe know less than me? And sometimes that's, I think a lot of times we're like, this is what I do, so like you should just let me come in and take over. But like in humility, this wasn't necessarily my thing anyway. This is the ability that I've been given. Let me just give. And if that means that like I'm the person that just, directs traffic in the parking lot or, helps move chairs or lines up chairs, like cool, like that can be enough.
I think people need to know who they are outside of their talents and their gifts, because that's where we hit this wall or this problem that if you lose your talent, then they lose themselves altogether. They feel like they have no value without their gifts or their talents. The Lord, I went through a season where we've done worship for 20 years, led worship, and we were singing 3 times on a Sunday, 1 time on a Saturday night, 1 time on Tuesday night for rehearsal, a Wednesday night for Wednesday night church, because we went to church.
Right.
How many days a week?
We
5 days a week, because we were saved.
That's right.
2 on Sunday morning, 1 on Sunday night, Wednesday
exactly.
night.
But I had blown out my vocal cords. I got a nodule, and one side of my vocal cord went completely paralyzed, and it was months before I could sing again. But I felt like I had lost myself because that's all I had ever done. And so I'm like, now what do I do? I'm coming to rehearsal because I'm a part of the team. I'm coming to all of the services. I love to worship, and that's how I worship, even before I had church or church language, because I wasn't raised in church. I loved to sing. That was who I was. And so without it, it took me through a season of like, well, who else am I? Like, am I a daughter? Like, what does that even mean?
So we're stewarding ourselves, our spiritual lives, our relationship with the Lord. And as Ben said, what do I have to give? Let's be honest, a lot of creatives have a hard time stewarding our time.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, the thing that takes on and on and on forever. Or I don't have enough time, or I'm doing this and doing that. Man.
So you have to steward your time well. And be ready for the opportunity you've been asking for. So are you stewarding yourself, your talents, your ability? Are you learning constantly? Are you growing? Are you stewarding your time? Are you stewarding your finances in a way that you're actually ready for the opportunity
when it comes?
That reminds me of the scripture where it talks about knowing the conditions of your flock, knowing the conditions of what you have. I don't know who said it, but they said hope is not a strategy. And I think sometimes even as creatives, where they think, okay, well, when this thing happens, this will happen. Everything will kind of come together. And so even in the lens of stewarding our creativity, there has to even be intentionality of how we're stewarding, you said, our time, our lives. With that being said, though, if I really want to help walk creatives through, what does that development process look like? Where, okay, I veered off a little bit here, but okay, like even when you have that example of like, okay, you were worshiping, 3, 4, 5 times a week. And then like it got to a point where like, oh, I'm actually damaging my actual gift.
Yeah.
And so how do we protect it and steward it in a way that, okay, it's not mine, but at the same time I do need to take responsibility of what I have. Does that make sense?
Good.
Well, Sabbath.
Yes.
Which just simply means I'm going to take a day a week and not do the thing from which I derive my income. So whatever it is that I do for work, I'm going to take a day off a week, and I'm not going to do that thing. And it's the rhythm of life that God set into place. There's a rhythm that is heaven's rhythm. And he's telling you, you need to rest a day a week. And that means one day a week. It means in some seasons of your life, you ought to be working 6 days a week. And health, you're talking about health and stewarding your health. Health, there's two sides to the coin of health. There's the side that is rest, and the other side is hard work. And if you don't have both of those sides, you are unhealthy. If you are really good at resting, and that's all that you can do, you're lazy. That's what that is.
Health
that's called laziness.
So weaponized in our culture today. Well, no, that's my time. That's my rest season.
Yeah, but it's going deeper about that. What you mean? There's a side of hard work to health as well too. How is hard work healthy? I guess.
So I'm thinking about this viral video that just has been going around, and the commentary about the video is that there's all these people in the crowd, and they're just sitting there in silence, right? They're just listening to this woman who is killing this song, y'all. I mean, she is killing it. She's singing it's either Whitney Houston or Celine Dion song. I mean, she is singing the paint off the wall. I'd have been throwing my shoes, running around, screaming, yelling. Hey! She's killing it. And everybody's like this. They're just listening to her, a little half smile. And there's that video. Well, there's not that many people in the room. There's less than 100 people. It's at some wedding. The woman is a wedding singer. And y'all, I'm telling you, she's a pro, like professional, superstar level. And she's singing. Somebody happened to film it. It's gone viral. Now she's getting all these opportunities, and people are reaching out to her. And I never heard anybody sing like this. Oh, my gosh, she's the next great thing. What is that a product of? Good stewardship. It's a product of her stewarding the 75 people at the wedding venue because she made a commitment, and her character is good enough that she came in there ready to sing. Come on. Because she never knows what opportunity is going to come out of this moment. That's excellence and stewardship. Where you're stewarding every moment. Instead of how many weddings have we been to when the person that they hired to come sing doesn't know the lyrics? Come on. Doesn't know the lyrics. Singing off key.
Can I get that on monitor, please?
Right. Doesn't know the song because who cares? It's just 50 people. It's just 75 people. I'm just a wedding singer. This isn't my purpose. This isn't my calling. This isn't where I'm really supposed to be. It's poor stewardship.
Wow.
But they're telling you about their cover band show that they have that night.
Right.
So come later because I'm doing this thing
that I care about. Right. It's bad stewardship.
Man.
Yeah.
Even the opportunities, like you say, every opportunity has to be stewarded well, because it opens the door for the next thing. Wow.
I even think about that in the worship process itself here, watching people steward rooms. The ones who are leading on these Sunday mornings, people are like, well, how did they get there? Well, they started in a worship room. When nobody else was in the room. And when you come in and you watch somebody steward that moment with the Lord so beautifully, the Lord opens up bigger rooms for them. But if they take that one moment and think, well, nobody's in here, I'm just going to hum along and just kind of do, well, that's probably where you're going to stay, because the Lord is not blind, and he's not going to, for one, put you in a place that's going to crush you. So it is his grace and his mercy as well. So like you said, knowing the seasons and the times that you're in, when you're stewarding a season, know that the Lord has something for you in it. So if you're not being seen yet, let him refine whatever it is in you that he needs to refine. Let him grow you in that place before you uproot to some other place. You'll die or you'll be crushed. So steward your seasons well. It was so good.
Man. So when you were just saying that about the dark room, or that stewarding in that worship room space, I've seen people that they've you guys have been pastors of churches, you guys been on so many different platforms, but you're still in the secret spaces, you're still in those hidden spaces. So can you even talk about how there's this level that's needed in stewardship where we don't just stay complacent or plateau of like, okay, I've arrived. Like, I already know how to communicate. I already know how to worship. I already know how to build. What is it in there that needs us to keep going, multiplying even more?
Yeah. My husband is somebody who takes his time very seriously. And I watch him. There's never a lull in what he's filling himself up with. It doesn't matter the seating or the place that we're in. It doesn't matter whether we're at home, in the car, or out on a great adventure. He's always filling himself up with wisdom and knowledge and things that feed his spirit, not just his spirit, but just the knowledge, the wisdom to be able to pour it back out.
Thank you.
Celebrating.
I really, really like him.
I really like you too. The people see communicators, artists, creatives just come up and start doing stuff, and they think, man, I wish I had that gift. I wish I had the talent to just paint.
Just
I wish
natural.
I had the talent to just come up and sing or write a song,
Play the piano.
Well, what I can speak as a writer and a speaker is that I'm speaking out of last year's and last decade's encounters with the Lord.
Wow.
I'm drawing from a bank account that I've been depositing in for decades. It's not like I just said, I think I'm going to preach tomorrow. You just write a message. It's like, oh, well, how long did you spend writing that message? 23 years. 23 years. That's how long I spent writing this message. It's like, it wasn't the 3 days of the week that I worked on it for 10 hours a day. No, it's 23 years of filling ourselves up with whatever creative expression is that you have, of stewarding your time well. My wife talked about it. I can speak for myself. I had to find ways to fit in between running a church and being a husband and a father and a friend and all the things that we have to do, and then also, preparing messages for Sunday, but continuing to fill up to be ready to prepare messages and content 10 years down the road. So what do I do? Like, I've got books, audio books playing while I'm brushing my teeth.
Every moment, every time.
Moment.
There's like not a wasted moment in the day.
You're filling the ride to work in the morning, and the as I'm folding my clothes that they come out of the dryer, I'm filling myself with stuff where we're encountering the Lord every day and setting up that time. That's stewardship.
Wow.
And we often confuse stewardship for, let me cram and prepare for this opportunity, instead of, let me steward my life in a way that my life is preparing for whatever opportunity the Lord
ready in
would
season
have.
and out of season.
And it all belongs to Him. I'm not posturing. We got to be careful. That's not stewardship.
Right.
I'm not trying to put myself in positions where somebody will notice me and my ambition takes over. But really, this life doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the Lord. So, Lord, at any moment, you may tap me on the shoulder, say, I have this thing, and I better have stewarded my life in a way that I'm prepared for that opportunity.
There's no waste. I love that you maximize every moment. And even when I look at the life of Jesus, it seems something has nothing to do with stewardship. But when we think about the loaves and the fish, and there was an abundance, there was leftovers, like, you better get those leftovers, like, bring that with us. Ben, you work with so many artists and creatives, and you kind of challenge, we even talked about being like a maximizer of nouns a little bit. I notice you always are pushing people to get that last ounce of everything that they have. What is it about stewardship and even our creativity, or even in their time, that you communicate to them that it's like, hey, like, this isn't almost an option, like, you have to do this, you have to take this seriously?
I tried, asked some people I was talking to recently, I'm like, what are you doing when no one else sees it? What are you doing with the things that no one's going to see? What are you going to do, like, as a kingdom creative, if you make the best painting that you've ever painted in your life, or you write the best EP or the best full-length album or the best song that you've ever written, and it is completely done, you have recorded it, you've paid for the mastering, it's done, and you framed the art or whatever it is, and then God's like, no one sees this.
Wow.
It's for me.
Nobody hears this. This was for me.
That's
Come
when
on,
you
that's
find out
so
if you
good.
really
If you
believe
really
it's,
believe it.
Like,
it all belongs to him.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, are you willing to be like, okay, this was just for you and that's enough?
That's right. I do want to speak to the listeners and say it's not too late. If you have not done this up to this point, our God is a redemptive God, and he wants to give you this opportunity. So if you haven't done this up to this point, start right this minute.
That's right.
Go set yourself aside. Go start turning on podcasts. Start listening. Start honing your craft, and then give it away.
That's right. So good.
Yeah. The Psalms 24:1, it says, "The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein." When we say the earth is the Lord's, when we say our gifts are the Lord's, there is a act of worship, I believe, that there is in stewardship. Worship isn't just those who are on a platform, doesn't mean you're just singing a song. What you guys have been alluding to and even honing in on is like, okay, if this is my gift unto the Lord, this is like, okay, if no one sees it, anyone else, but it's his. I think this is, what if we had a community of people that actually believe that and actually walked in that? What's on the other side as a community, as creatives, if we really actually operated in this way, that everything that we have belongs to the Lord.
That's right.
And so I have to put an onus on this. There's a demand. There's a demand on my time that belongs to the Lord. There's a demand on my gifting that belongs to the Lord. Okay, I started off in this way, but okay, there's still a demand. Like, if I'm still living, I'm still breathing, that means, okay, I still have time to get this account, because there's an account that we do have to stand before the Lord and say, okay, what did you do with this thing that I gave you? What did you do with this
I feel like the earth, society today has perverted what the Lord has put in place. We believe that there's power of life and death in the tongue. And they say, oh, manifest your future. No, that's actually biblical. And the Lord in Isaiah 61:6 says, "But you shall be called the priests of the Lord. They shall speak of you as the ministers of our God. You shall eat the wealth of the nations, and in their glory you shall boast. You will be called priests of the Lord, ministers of our God." It's not ours. And if we're not manifesting what we want into the earth, we're speaking things that the Lord says to call out. We're speaking that into existence. When we have something in our hand, we are called in this earth to speak into the atmosphere, to call the earth to bring forth fruit, to put your hands in the dirt and to make it happen. You're the priest. This is your earth. This is your space, and you have to bring forth what you have in your hands to do it.
There's even when we go back to the beginning, where the Lord gave Adam and Eve, he said, okay, this is yours. I'm giving this to you to steward. They were given a job. And so I even think sometimes when we think we get to heaven, like, okay, everything's going to be, we're just going to chill here. Like, even in the very beginning, Adam had a job. He said, steward this, take care of this. There's multiplication. It's like, it's literally built in the DNA of heaven to multiply. Like, we have to multiply what we have. What do you have, and how do we give this to the next thing? How do we carry this on? The next generation. So if we're stewarding family, if we're stewarding time, like, is it being multiplied or is it just being used? Is there what's being left after when we're said and done? And so with what we have, there is multiplication that's needed. And whenever I think of that, even going back to what you were saying, this is good enough. If something's good enough, that means it's probably just going to be for this moment. And so even Jesus with that miracle, like, he didn't even multiply good enough. He made sure there was more. There was abundance. Like, how much greater would creators be if they operate in this space of, like, it has to be more than good enough. It has to be multiplied, that it carries over and over.
And that every aspect of your life matters. And stewarding every aspect of your life is important. As creatives, we can get hyper-focused on whatever area of creativity that we have a gifting in, and become so hyper-focused on that we don't steward our spiritual life well. We don't steward our financial life well.
Our family well.
We don't steward our time, our family, our relationships. But we see it all the time in celebrities. I'm an incredible artist and drug addict and relationships are falling apart, and on the third, fourth, fifth marriage, and time, nobody can trust that. Even though they're incredibly talented, they can't be hired to do anything anymore because they missteward their time in every way. But when we get the revelation through daily encounters with the Lord that this all belongs to him, every aspect of my life I steward well, then I'm ready for all of the opportunities that the Lord has for me.
I think when we start steward, if we grasp the idea of stewardship as a whole, and not just in our creativity, but in life, that is when we'll actually see that kingdom creatives start influencing what creativity actually is. Like in the meantime, we're still just trying to like mimic a lot of times something else that's happening. But if God is the father of creativity, how are we stewarding the creativity that he gave us, which should be the purest form of creativity, to create something that's new, that's going to actually impact the world around us?
Uplift. All throughout history, all throughout human history, kingdom creatives uplifted society and culture as a whole. Architecture, music, plays, novels. It was all written to glorify the Lord. And you don't build the Sistine Chapel if you're a bad steward.
That's right.
Come on. That's so good. And that's the goal here, where we're trying to equip kingdom creatives to advance the kingdom of God. So thank you for sharing these insights. Thank you for giving your wisdom and your time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. I think
we stewarded this time well.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Awesome.
Love y'all.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Axel Podcast. Make sure to subscribe and stay up to date with everything that's going on. For more information, visit axelcreativeco.com or follow us on all socials at Axel Creative Co. We'll see you next time.